Welcome to this lesson on the citric acid cycle. This is another lecture or lesson on carbohydrate metabolism. It's just a continuation from where we started off. The citric acid cycle, also known as the tricarboxylic acid, occurs in the mitochondria. It occurs in the mitochondria and it is a central metabolic pathway. So, meaning that it oxidizes the most important end product of most biochemical reactions. That is the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, all are leading to the formation of acetyl CoA, which is then used as the most important substrate in the tricarboxylic acid cycle. And the most important products of this reaction are these molecules, the NADH, the FADH2, which are supposed to be used in the electron transport chain to generate ATP. So all metabolic pathways from carbs, that is the glycolysis, fats, even proteins, all are coming to form what? All are coming to the TCA cycle. Why? Because they produce an intermediate, and sometimes some proteins can form different intermediates along the cycle itself. Yeah. Now, the reaction begins off by formation of acetyl CoA. Now, picking it from the pyruvate, if you remember, is the final product of what? Glycolysis. And depending on the presence or absence of oxygen, one of the pathways that pyruvate will take up is the formation of the acetyl CoA. Now, the conversion of pyruvate to acetyl CoA is an irreversible reaction and requires the presence of what? Pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. So this is a complex enzyme that is made up of subunits E1, E2, and E3, and each of these subunits is made up of is a different type of enzyme. So this is just a complex of enzyme and requires the presence of these cofactors. The coenzyme the coenzyme A, the NAD plus, there's lipoate, FAD, and there's also NAD, when NAD plus is used as one of the cofactors, it gives off NADH plus C protons, and pyruvate is converted to what? Acetyl CoA. It is converted to acetyl CoA and produces carbon dioxide as one of its byproducts. So this is the complex enzyme. So you have E1, that is the one that works on the pyruvate to convert it and produces carbon dioxide. Then you've got E2, which requires the coenzyme A to form acetyl CoA. Then you also have the E3 that may convert NAD plus to NADH. So the names of these enzymes, E1 is a decarboxylase enzyme, E2 is a transacetylase enzyme, and E3 is a dehydrogenase enzyme. So all these require different factors for them to work. Now, let's now get into the cycle itself. So now the pyruvate has been converted to acetyl-CoA by pyruvate dehydrogenase enzyme, if you remember very well. From here now we have there's a reaction now between oxaloacetate in the presence of water and the enzyme citrate synthase. This reaction between oxaloacetate and acetyl-CoA in the presence of water is catalyzed by citrate synthase to form citrate. In the process, coenzyme A is regenerated. The coenzyme A is regenerated, then you form citrate. Now, citrate is then converted to isocitrate by the enzyme aconitase. Then isocitrate is therefore then converted from isocitrate to alpha ketoglutarate. Now what happens in this reaction is that NAD plus is used up to produce NADH it regenerates NADH, and in the process you produce carbon dioxide. So this is some form of a decarboxylase carboxylate reaction. Now this NADH that is produced, remember it has to go where? To the electron transport chain to generate ATP. So NAD plus is used to generate NADH. In the process, carbon dioxide is used up. Then the alpha ketoglutarate reacts and is converted by alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. The reaction from isocitrate to alpha ketoglutarate is catalyzed by isocitrate dehydrogenase, which gives off alpha ketoglutarate. Then alpha ketoglutarate is converted to succinyl-CoA by alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. It also uses NAD plus to give off NADH, and then it also uses up coenzyme A and gives off carbon dioxide. Now you now have from alpha ketoglutarate to succinyl-CoA. This CoA has come from the coenzyme A that was fed into this reaction, so it has also used up NAD plus to give off NADH. Then succinyl-CoA is then converted to succinate or succinate, but in the process this coenzyme A is given off, and in the process you generate GTP from GDP and then organic phosphate. This reaction between succinyl-CoA, or the reaction that converts succinyl-CoA to succinate, is catalyzed by the enzyme succinyl-CoA synthetase. Succinyl-CoA synthetase is the enzyme that converts succinyl-CoA to succinate. Then succinate is then converted to what? Fumarate. And this reaction uses what? FAD to give off FADH2. This FADH2, remember, it is also one of the requirement molecules that are needed to drive off the electron transport chain. This one works at complex C2, whereas the NADH works at complex C1. Yeah, this reaction from succinate to fumarate is catalyzed by what? Succinate dehydrogenase enzyme. It is catalyzed by the succinate dehydrogenase enzyme from succinate to fumarate. Then from fumarate to malate, this is a hydration reaction that uses what? Just requires water, and the enzyme that catalyzes the conversion of fumarate to malate is fumarase enzyme. So this is a hydration reaction. Then malate is converted to oxaloacetate by malate dehydrogenase, and this one also uses up NAD plus to give off NADH. Then you have oxaloacetate. So oxaloacetate again in the presence of acetyl-CoA and the citrate synthase you give off citrate, and the cycle repeats itself, just like that. And the cycle repeats itself. Now, remember, every glucose molecule gives off 2 molecules of pyruvate. So meaning, this reaction, for every molecule of glucose, there are 2 cycles of the TCA, the tricarboxylic acid, that it will undergo. So each 1 molecule of glucose undergoes this cycle twice because of the 2 pyruvate molecules that are produced. Because yeah. Now, what is the energy yield in this cycle? What is the energy yield? So remember, if we start counting, what we need is to count the number of NADH molecules that are produced. So 1 is produced here, 2 is produced here, 3 is produced here. So there are 3 NADH molecules that are produced from this cycle. So we've got 3 NADH molecules. Then we have FADH that is produced here. So FADH is there 1 molecule of FADH that is. Then we also have this reaction here. This reaction here that produces GTP from GDP and the inorganic phosphate. And sometimes you may find that in some other cells, ATP is produced from ATP and the inorganic phosphate. So this is a direct production of energy. So 1 ATP or 1 GTP. So, and remember that one NADH yields 2.5 ATP molecules. So now if we have got 3, it means 3 by 2.5 gives us what? 7.5. And remember that FADH2, 1 FADH2 gives off how many? 1.5 ATPs. It gives off 1.5 ATPs. That is the energy yield. So since we have 3 NADH, remember this is from what? 1 pyruvate molecule. 1 pyruvate molecule that is giving us these 2 things. It's 1 pyruvate molecule that is giving us these 2 things. So 1 pyruvate will give us 3 NADH molecules and 1 FADH2 molecule. So 3 NADH gives us 7.5 ATPs. 1 FADH gives us 1.5 ATPs. Then plus the 1 ATP or GTP that is produced. So you have 7.5 plus 1.5, it gives us 9. Plus this one, 10. So it means that 1 pyruvate, when it undergoes a complete cycle of the tricarboxylic acid, gives us 10 ATPs. Yes, which is now, since we said that each glucose molecule, when it undergoes glycolysis, it gives off 2 pyruvate molecules, and these pyruvate molecules will be converted to acetyl-CoA, meaning that for every glucose molecule, you get 20 ATP molecules, because 1 gives off 10, so you multiply by 2 to give off 20. So per glucose molecule, you get 20 ATPs. That is before these enter the electron transport chain, and before you combine everything now from the electron transport chain and also those coming from glycolysis. So this is the energy yield from the tricarboxylic acid cycle. Yeah. Now, the enzyme citrate synthase is affected by the concentration of citrate. So that's what they call the citrate feedback. Then isocitrate dehydrogenase is activated by ADP but inhibited by ATP and NADH. So it undergoes product inhibition. At the same time, alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase is inhibited by NADH and the succinyl-CoA. And this cycle depends heavily on this ratio of NAD plus and NADH ratio, availability of oxidized cofactors. If you can see, the regulatory points are dependent on NADH and NAD plus NADH. Hence why we're saying this cycle depends largely on NAD plus and NADH. Yeah. Then thiamine deficiency inhibits the alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, which may lead to neurological conditions known as the Wernicke-Korsakoff. And not only does it inhibit the alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, even the PDH complex, the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, it inhibits the E1. So the alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase is similar to the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. So because they are similar, they are both affected by a deficiency in thiamine. Yeah. So these are the regulatory steps. Here, the citrate inhibits the citrate synthase there. Then alpha ketoglutarate there. We're saying it's inhibited by the ratio of NAD plus and NADH. Yeah. So that's what we're saying here. Isocitrate dehydrogenase activated by ADP but inhibited by ATP and the NADH. Alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase inhibited by NADH and the succinyl-CoA. So if you check there, let's use this one. This alpha ketoglutarate is inhibited by NADH and the succinyl-CoA. So if you have a lot of this, it's going to inhibit this reaction here. But if you have less of this, it means this reaction can drive forward. Equally, like the isocitrate dehydrogenase, when you have a lot of NADH, it inhibits this enzyme. But then if you have less of this or more of the NAD plus, it will want to drive this reaction forward. So these are the regulatory steps there. The alpha ketoglutarate, the isocitrate, as well as the reaction between acetyl-CoA leading to the formation of citrate. These are the regulatory points of the tricarboxylic acid cycle. The most important regulatory intermediate is what? NADH, the ratio of NAD plus to NADH. Because that is what will determine whether this cycle will go forward or will be inhibited. So this is a central cycle that occurs. Cheers. Thank you.